Welcome to the Fantasy Football Clown Show. I'm your host, Ed, along with Justin tonight. We're recapping week 4. Crazy week, right, Justin?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I feel like the bye weeks are now upon us. I don't know about you and how you manage your teams, but I really take this time to do a deep dive on all my teams. So these next 2 days, I really focus on, getting things ready for the next 4 weeks in general and the bye weeks coming, and see where, analyze where my teams are and, which teams I think just need some extra firepower, which teams that, I think are trending the wrong direction and I still need to watch and see where they are and kind of get a feel for my portfolio teams. So,
Yeah, exactly. Especially with all the bye weeks here next week and injuries that happened this past week. So some of my teams are going to be scrounging for some of the later guys that probably,
you have some
probably get a bunch of zeros here and there.
Yeah, you have some fab money getting spent tonight, huh?
Don't try.
Tonight or tomorrow or
Yeah.
the next day, whenever that first fab run is. But yeah, that's I feel like I'm in really good shape, and you guys just hang in there and check us out for our fab show that we have each and every week, and kind of how we spend our fab and that sort of thing, and what waiver pickups and maybe some obscure ads too. So I want to encourage that. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and the notification bell. That'll let you know whenever we drop a new video. So week 4, let's get after it, Justin. We'll start with our DraftKings tournament, and I'm just going to bring that right up on the screen, and we can take a look at what we had this week. We actually had enough teams to pay 5 positions, so I did bring those up on the screen. And as you guys can see, the Cammer was our first place team again this week. I feel like it's almost an every week thing for the Cammer. But what did his team look like, or his build look like this week, Justin?
Well, he went with Russell Wilson in his quarterback slot there. Then Williams, the running back from Denver, which he got hurt pretty early, so he only got 3.9 points with him. Khalil Herbert had a pretty nice game, ended with 25.2 points. Had a rushing touchdown, 100-yard game, over 100 yards rushing, some 4 receptions and 19 receiving yards. Jamar Chase didn't have the quite big game as he did last week. It wasn't too still below par from what he's normally doing with 14.3. Nuka, the wide receiver from the Rams as well on here, 34.3 points, receiving touchdown to help them win that game against the Indianapolis, 163 receiving yards, 9 receptions. Cortland Sutton, 11.7 points. He paid up for George Kittle here, it looks like, but he only got him 1.9 points this past week. He also went with DJ Moore, one of my favorite players for a while here, and he finally came together this past week and got him 30.1 points. Receiving touchdown, over 100 yards, receiving 8 receptions, pretty decent outing for him. And then he went with the Baltimore Ravens defense that got him 17 points. Let's see, 4 sacks, 3 interceptions, and they only gave up 3 points in that game. So it is pretty decent total here of 160.62 points. I was able to walk away with $35.10 this past week. So kind of outpaid for a few things for him this week.
Yeah, and I think he won last week, so I think that's a couple weeks in a row for him.
Mm-hmm.
Just a shout out to W. O'Brien, was just over 3 points behind, so real close. And then D-Guz, 3 points behind that. So a lot of, 6 points was the separation from third to first, so not a whole lot of room there. And then you drop it back another 6 points and you get to Rick Topher, and then you drop it back another 5 and you get to me. So I got in some money this week. I didn't make much, $1.70, I guess, but looks like week one, wasn't I in the money? And then week two, you were in the money, and then, or which way was it? I know you were
I
in
think I
one.
won week one.
You won week one, then I was
and
in
then
the
every
money
other.
week two, and then week three, I guess neither of us were in, huh? Is that how that worked? Or I think we've been in the money, 3 of the 4 weeks so far, you and I. So that's kind of, one of the things to, yeah, I know. Last week I took a bath because I think pretty much everybody beat me, and I was like saying to myself, well, gee, that was pretty crazy. And so looking at that, W. O'Brien had the same lineup against me, and of course, if my 143, didn't do very well against 157, so shout out to W. O'Brien getting one of the 5 head-to-head matchups against me. However, I was able to do pretty well against 4 of our counterparts that were also in there, and so that's Drupert 13, D Guz, Russ 30, and you, Justin. I was actually able to capitalize and beat you this week, so you got one of those 5 spots. So that was kind of the week that was in DraftKings. We'll get next week's out there. Try to get it out on Friday or Saturday and get that filling up, so that way when we invite everybody into the head-to-heads, we can kind of maneuver, get them out on Sunday morning, so that hit the accept button and get into that. So we'll definitely look to go there. Moving on to where we are in our redraft leagues. I just want to bring them kind of highlight some of what we have going on in redraft. Best ball head-to-head letter A, we had Ritz with a 313.45. With best ball 2 head-to-head B, we have Bolt Fam 09 with a 318.50. So the first one is kind of like basically our Elite 8 series, where the second one is more like our Big 8 series as far as scoring. It looks like Justin had some technical difficulties, so we'll wait for him to jump back in, and we'll kind of reinvent how things are here a little bit. Redraft 1, I actually led the way with 302.84 as the top points getter, and then redraft 3, be anxious to kind of get Justin's cake, but Justin was that top point getter there for 332.63. Do you want to share my screen again here so that we can take a look at the standings in the best ball points only league, and we'll bring that up on the board. And best ball only 1. Bumsky's had the top score this week at 283.62, and then that allowed him to be in the lead, or stretch his lead a little bit further, probably. I think he was in the lead last week as well. So he's up by about 40 points over the camera there as we look at the records there. And then looking at the best ball 2 points only, league, we're going to look at Slippery Nailer, there that is that had the top points this week with a 322.98. However, the Camera is in first place there by about less than a point. So it's real close. Slippery Nailer made a lot of headway this week in this update. So that's kind of what we have there as far as that goes. Justin, welcome back. I see you had some technical difficulties, but I actually covered redraft 1, which I was the top point getter, 302.84. But then redraft 3, you were the top point getter with a 332.63. So you and I took care of getting the most points in both of the redrafts this week. So just kind of
exactly.
Get your feeling there on, or give you a shout out there while you're on screen about having a real good week.
That's actually one of my favorite teams.
Well, and I always think that how we do in redraft, is kind of like how we're doing in that particular year, right? I mean, that's when we're drafting those players. We know that we do have a little bit of an advantage, truth be told, because we play in so many of the leagues that have that same scoring that we just then apply it to the next year in the redraft form. So we kind of, I feel like every year we get better, you and I, because we're kind of getting more and more used to what makes those scoring differences happen. And so anyway, it was kind of an exciting week for me to see that happen. In redraft 3, I think I'm 0 so I think I actually have a really poor record, and you beat me this week with that top score. I think you played head-to-head against me. So moving on to Dynasty, though, and of course, that's where we really have our bread and butter. We'll kind of highlight this. So Clownhead won. I'm not even sure if this is a team that you drafted. I think this is an orphan team, but you were the leading point getter at 291.72. You didn't draft that team, did you?
I did draft the team, yes.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
It might have been another league that you did not draft, and I was like, wow, okay. I was like kind of amazed when I was putting that up. I was like, wow, that's awesome. Clownhead 2, Dirty Dave Storms, 303.13. When we go to Clownhead 3, that's going to be where we find our champ or our top point getter this week, and that's going to be Hurricane Zion with a 307.91. And want to get kind of your take, Justin, on a little bit about Hurricane Zion's team here, and what your thoughts are, on the team. And
well, I think he's 4-0 right now. He's hitting on all of his cylinders. It does not have a very deep team. He's been hit pretty decent with the injury bug with Jeff Wilson, Jalen Woods, but he has Jalen Hurts with got him 41.4 points. Sam Howell 26.8, ETN 18.2. Finally had a pretty decent week there. Kyron Williams found the end zone twice this week, 37.9. AJ Brown, number one receiver for the week, 47 points, 2 touchdowns, 175 yards. Marquise Brown just coming out of the shadows there for him with 21.1 points. Nico Collins had a huge week, 168 points, 2 touchdowns for 46.3 points. Courtland Sutton had a somewhat down week for him this week with only 11.7 points. His saving grace was he got a touchdown in that game. Gerald Everett, 6.9 points, two receptions, 9 yards. Cole Kmet had a huge week this past week. 3-point PPR for him, seven receptions, so that's 21 there. Another 8.5 with receiving yards. 2 touchdowns, 43.8. Rondell Moore, big old goose egg for him. Calvin Austin. And if you kind of scroll down his bench, he of course he has Barkley there, which has been out for the past couple of weeks. AJ Dillon is possibly looking to lose his job there. He hasn't been doing much for Green Bay. After that, it's pretty much just like hit and miss kind of guys. John Bates, Austin Hooper, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And he has a pretty.
He had the points all in his lineup. Like, I mean, yeah, I guess you could have put one of the 3 points in for Rondell Moore with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but I wouldn't have done that either. And
Yeah.
I mean, he just didn't have any points on his bench. So I feel like he really, I mean, nobody's starting Chris Moore, so unless you have to. So, I mean, I feel like his starts, like, he just started his guys, and his guys produced, and they created 300 points, right? I mean, like, that feels like what happened there. Like, he started his guys produced, his guys gave him a big ticket, and if I'm in that situation, I'm going to take the big ticket, right? I'm going to take it and run it and say, hey, that makes sense.
Set the best lineup.
Yeah, I mean, it's always great when you start your best lineup and it's not best ball, like you did it yourself. So, kudos there, and keep it up and see if you can go win again. I mean, that's what I would always say. Clownhead 4, we have Cheeky Hobson. Clownhead 5, Kerwin 17 with 259.81, and Cheeky Hobson 287.38. Moving on to Clownhead 6 through 9. In Clownhead 6, we have Hot Sauce Wally. With Clownhead 7, we have Biff Cannon. Hot Sauce Wally was 262.42. Biff Cannon 277.79. Then Clownhead 8, we have JDM 1989 again. So you're finding your way on the list 3 times already, Justin.
Yeah.
256.58. So that's this year's startup. You're coming on strong. And then Clownhead 9 again is where we find our big scorer of the week in these 4 divisions. And I'll take a look at that. And that's going to be King AR with a 301.84. And you can kind of see how that stacks up. And that's going to be our large showing, I guess if you will, this week. And then taking a look at his team, Justin, I'll let you go through that.
Yes, absolutely. So he is starting quarterback here in the quarterback position. Matt Stafford, 22.4 points. Kind of a mediocre day for him, really. CMC, he had one heck of a day. 3 rushing touchdowns, a receiving touchdown, over 170 yards total. For 62.7 points. Justin Jefferson finally found the end zone for it Sunday. Finally, for the first time in a year, twice in that game. We gave him 28.5 points. Stephon Diggs had a big game, 120 yards, 3 receiving touchdowns for 43 points. Evan Ingram, 7 receptions, 59 yards, 28.4 points. Derrick Henry, what can you say? Oh man, Henry's still ticking. 122 yards rushing. Threw for a touchdown gave him 35.38 points. Devontae Adams left the game kind of early, but was able to get back on the field and ended up giving him 18 points. Tony Pollard, he's not putting out this past week and what he should be doing. Only carried the ball 11 times and for 47 yards. Only gave him 14.75 points. Adam Thielen is going back to his youth here. 7 receptions for 76 yards, 17.45 points. DeAndre Hopkins, 11.8 points. Noah Fant had a big catch last night and almost scored a touchdown. Came down to 1-yard line, gave him 15.3 points. Aaron Jones, I don't know what's going on with that Green Bay backfield. I know he's on a slight snap count restriction during the game, so he only had 4.15 points. But if you look at his depth chart, Jerick McKinnon, Michael Carter, Marvin Jones, he'll have a game here and there. Rob Woods. Let's see who else. Gerald Everett. He pretty much also had his perfect lineup. And I missed Curtis Samuels there. And is on his bench with 19.95 points.
I don't think I would have put him in. I'm looking at his lineup. I'm not sure where before the game I would have said, I got to sub him in. I'm going to play Pollard over him.
Oh, yeah.
And I think I'd even play Fan over him. I understand that. Obviously, it would have been better to play him over Aaron Jones, but I don't think I'm going to do that. In realistically, I'm not going to go back and, I wouldn't. I'm going to start Aaron Jones because he also scored 4 touchdowns before. I know that. But will say this, that I feel like Curtis Samuel's a guy that I would start in a flex and feel pretty good. Like, okay, I've got a reasonable lineup.
Mhm.
And maybe even Robert Woods. Like, I guess I could see myself on a bye week starting those two guys and not feeling like, oh no, and probably Everett with the premium tight ends points. So I feel like he's got three players that he could start. It gets real ugly in his quarterback room though, right? If he
Yeah.
doesn't have anything happen to
Yeah.
Matt Stafford and
His only starting quarterback is Matt Stafford, and he's 4-0. He's somehow able to pull this off.
well, but like if Matt Stafford for some reason would
Go
like
down.
well, and
Yeah.
he's half down right now. Like he's like
Mhm.
half down. We're gonna be real smart. We think he's gonna play because he's a stud, is the word out of the Rams. So I mean, I guess I feel like that could go a lot of different ways real quick. As far as that goes. So that's the Clownhead 1 through 9. Now moving on to the Elite Eight, and of course this is one of our favorite things that as we talk about it is we really enjoy the Elite Eight. We have the Wolfpack starting us off with our top points getter here, and we'll bring Justin in to look at this team in Division A. Wolfpack 323.85 points, and you can kind of take a look at that report that came out this morning. There for the Wolfpack, and here's his team.
Yeah, so this is the league where we have to start two quarterbacks. Starting quarterbacks were Josh Allen. Big week for him, 320 yards, 4 touchdowns. He also had a nice running touchdown, 5 total for the week with 58.1 points. Jared Goff.
No, but now go back. So he only acquired Jared Goff on Saturday. So he did not get the points from Jared Goff from Thursday's game. He actually had to take a 0 if you look at his points on here, and he still was the leading point getter. So
Yeah.
he actually traded away his starting quarterback, his quarterback 2, which was Sam Howell, and I actually made that trade with him on purpose on Saturday to make him take a 0 in his quarterback spot. He had Jacoby Brissett in as his quarterback, 2. So if you look back at his stats you'll see that. So anyway, I know it shows up with Goff here. He's put him in for next week, but he didn't have Goff's points. I actually had him. So anyway, I digress. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you caught that because I had no idea about it. Running back CMC run the 70 yards with 62.7 points. Kyron Williams over 100 yards, 37.95. Justin Jefferson, 2 touchdowns, 28.5. Tyreek Hill went up against one of the best defenses this week. He 3 of 5 for 58 yards, 12.45 points. Devontae Adams, 18. Deion Hardy with 4 points. Tyler Higbee, 3-point PPR, 5-11 for 64 yards, 22.9 points. Cole Kmet found the end zone twice, 43.8. Zeke with 7.2 points. Johnny Smith. Me personally, I probably would not have started Johnny Smith, but 29.5 points for him. He just set up his perfect lineup. One of the perfect lineups.
Is that who he had in, or did he have Lockett in? I'm just wondering if this is like set up from today. You know what I mean? Like, is this set up for week 5? If you go back and look at his at what he had, I'm almost feeling like he would have played Lockett. I gotta think, right?
Oh wow. Okay, so he had Donald Parham.
Okay.
He had Donald Parham in there, as well as Johnny Smith and Cole Kmet.
Oh, so he did start Johnny Smith. What a good move. Like I would have, that would have been something that I wouldn't have, thought to do. Yeah, he did. He had Parham in.
Yeah, started 4 tight ends this week.
Which I don't think is a bad move, really. Like, I think with 3-point PPR, that might be the way to kind of
Mm-hmm.
Putting 2 tight ends in your flex might be not a bad play. Like that might be a scoring play. Actually, I may do that, just to see how I do with my points, because like Jonnu Smith, you just fall into one and it makes some sense. So,
Yeah.
and I mean, his choices were going to be like guys like, Singletary, like he doesn't have much. Some of these guys are on bye. Like the reason that Tyler Lockett is here now, he was starting for him last week, but he's on bye now. So that's what led me to think that, these guys are on bye. Parham's on bye this week. So that's why he's down here on his bench on our list. Is he's got his lineup kind of ready for week 5, looks like, as far as that goes. So moving on to that's one observation I have. I'm gonna have to think on that. We'll be interested to hear what you think about that, Justin. Putting tight ends in the flex whenever we can in Elite 8. And Clown is 1 through 5. Like that might be actually the play. That might be a real play. So yeah, something to think about. In Division B, 808 Ryden, 289.67. Division C, the Cammer, he won the DraftKings tournament, but he also won Division C, 255.73. ZBM 7, 286.68 in Division D. Division E, MSTU 17, 257.55. Division F, River AD 98 with a 269.88. Division G, Boyce 21, 263.57. Division H, Emeralston 1013, 292.91. So another big performance there. It seems like there was a lot of 250s and 260s in the middle of those rounds there. So just kind of an observation or an interesting, kind of caveat. Looking at the Big 8, I'm just kind of moving on to that final, Big 96 team division. Division S, we have Wandata 21 with a 288.64. Division T, Noisy Silence 281.28. Division U, Earth Gets Black 258.09. Division V, SB Sherman 297.08. Division W, G-Town Baseball 22, 292.25. And that takes us to our high point getter in Division X. We have Titan Chaps, and we'll bring up his team here and kind of what we have here with a 307.62. So you can see the margin from him to second and third in that particular division was pretty great. So big scoring performance there. Justin, what do you think of the team here as we take a peek at the team?
It's not bad, but with his starting quarterback was Pat Mahomes this week. He really had a really down week. Very unusual kind of game script, I guess they had for that game. Got an early 17-0 lead in the first quarter there. 8 of 30 for 203 yards and touchdown, and threw 2 interceptions, ran the ball 7 times, 51 yards, and only gave him 20.97 points. CMC, of course, this is another player that we're seeing over and over again, over 170 yards, 4 touchdowns, 62.7 points. Monroe St. Brown, 56 yards, touchdown, 18.1 points. Chris Olave, I guess with his arm, he just couldn't get him the ball right. He caught 1 of 6 for 4 yards, so 1.4 points this past week. Hunter Henry, 18.6 points. Josh Jacobs finally came around and 58 yards, rushing touchdown, 8 receptions, 81 yards, 39.65 points. Kenneth Walker, he started off that game there with a big 73-yard run. I was elated. I had him and some other leagues. I needed him to have a big game. Got called back, ended with 79 yards for a rushing touchdown, 19.65 points. Terry McLaurin, 86 yards, and picked up somebody's fumble and ran in for a touchdown for 24.6 points. Brandon Ayuk, over 148 yards, 6 receptions, 25.8 points. Rashard White, 56 yards, rushing 3 for 22, receiving 18.05. Josh Dobbs, I mean, he's surprised me this year with what he's doing there for Arizona. 265 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, 12 carries, 48 yards, 37.65 points. And then Ryan Tannehill, 240 for a touchdown, 20.45 points. If you scroll down to his bench, I mean, he could have played Adam Thielen, but I mean, where would you play him over? I wouldn't have played him over Chris Olave. Wouldn't have played him over Rashard White, that's for sure. And 17.4 points on his bench. Westbrook Economy, where's he been? And now he's scoring touchdowns for Tennessee. Jonnu Smith is left on his bench with 25.5. Smythe, tight end for Miami, 16.6 points. So he has some guys where he can plug and play. And
I mean, he's got some guys on a taxi. Look at his 3 guys on taxi that can make some sense.
Yeah, Mike Wilson.
Jaleel McLaughlin really came in. I felt like he had a lot of juice with Denver when he came in for Javonte.
Yeah,
that was, I mean, he's a guy that I think is going to be heavily picked up in Fab this week, and yet, here he is sitting on his taxi. So I feel like this might be one of my favorite teams as we break them down. Like, I feel like with the bye weeks coming this week, I mean, I see like guys you can feel good about in a flex, Smythe, or there you can feel good about Thielen starting him. I think, with regularity. I don't know if you feel good about Jonnu Smith. It's been a couple weeks though. He's had pretty good weeks. I mean, Antonio Gibson, he had a down week maybe, but you feel good about starting him at any given week. Like, you don't feel like it's bad. And if you did want to say, hey, I'm going to go for it, I think we figured out the production of Michael Wilson is real. I think, and like I said, I think this McLaughlin is somebody to keep an eye on because, Aiden O'Connell might have been a one week deal, but it's just good to have quarterbacks that are starting quarterbacks out of the 32 teams on a bye week, 4 teams on a bye week. You have a guy on your taxi that's one of 28 this week going, in there. It's not the worst thing in the world. And quite honestly, he's got 3 starters this week at quarterback and his 2 super flexes and his quarterback spot. So.
Oh yeah, and absolutely. And if you pull up on Sleeper, he's brought Mike Wilson and that running back from Denver off his taxi. So
he's like, okay, I'm ready to go. I'm not gonna let any more. And it's something I cover when I talk about my dynasty teams and when to bring guys off the taxi. But I think you need to be disciplined with why you're doing it. I guess I look back. I was playing you, and I had some guys on a taxi, or I had Puka Nacua on a taxi, and he played on Monday night that week, and I activated him before the game because I'm like, you know what? If I lose because Nacua doesn't have enough points, I'd rather do that than I forget who they were playing, but I had another player that I could have put in there that night as well, and I'm just like, you know what? I'd rather lose with Nacua than lose with that tight end that I had an option of using. So I just went with Nacua, and I did end up winning, I think, that week. But I think it's kind of that reasoning that you need to do when you do activate is okay. Is it I don't want to lose and have this guy on my taxi squad. Because he's that good, and that's kind of the reason you want to bring him up. But to finish out the Big 8, we have the camera in Division Y with a 268.07. So he's been the top in Elite Eight, Big Eight, and then won DraftKings. So he's really hit the gamut this week of his divisions. You only control what you play in, and he's just kind of taken it by storm. And then Division Z, we have Britch B with a 268.49. And I know we're kind of up against it, but just wanted to kind of highlight a couple things tonight, just as we wind down week 4, and just kind of get your observations, Justin, on some of the things that are happening. It's kind of interesting that as I look back, Clayton Chaps, who was our top point getter in the Big Eight this week, we actually did think he might come in second place. And he's been the top scorer weeks 1, 2, and 4. So, kind of interesting that we had him in second place, but 3 of the 4 weeks he's actually been the top scorer in that division, which I thought, okay, that makes some sense. And then G-Town Baseball this week we had in first place at, in our when we ran the algorithms, and he won the top spot. And then just kind of looking here, I think that's Noisy Silence also we had in second, and he won the top spot this week. But everybody else is kind of different than what we analyzed, if you will. And in Division T, we had Noisy Silence in second, but he's won all 4 weeks. He's been the top points getter in Division T. So, I feel like that's something to kind of have a shout out, that if you can score the most points the first 4 weeks, you're really onto something. And Division Y, Nick Merkel is the top point getter. You're looking at the Elite Eight, kind of the same idea. Wolfpack, he was the winner last year, and he's won he's been the top point getter 3 out of the 4 weeks. And just kind of to elaborate that, I actually made that trade to try to, I don't want to say get him a loss, but he was playing a 2-1 team this week, and he was 3-0. And I thought, this is an opportunity to maybe see if he could drop a game and kind of, because if he wins, he'll get the Empire pot. And I thought, well, this is my contribution with my 0-3 team to kind of help maybe get him a loss. And I really did. I mean, that's good for the game, right? To not have repeat, knock out the Empire. So I thought, well, this is a shot for me to give him a 0 and see if he could lose. So I definitely put that in when I was making the trade, is it had to be on Saturday before the game. So that was kind of one of the criteria to me making the deal. So kind of throwing it out there. 808 riding 3 weeks in a row, being the top spot. And ZBM has 2, with Johnny Ross being 2 in Division D. And let's see, anything else? Nobody else with multiple weeks in that. And then just kind of looking here, Dirty Storms is a 2 in Clownhead 2. Dirty Storms has won 2 of the 4. And Hurricanes by himself, Kerwin, Hot Sauce Wally in Clownhead 6 has won 2 of the 4 as well. And you've won 2 of the 4 in Clownhead 8. So we're weeks 1 and 4. So you kind of had the top spot. And then King AR was our top point getter weeks 1 and 4. So in Clownhead 9. So that's kind of how we have the repeats. I always like to kind of recap that every 4 weeks and just kind of where we are. But yeah, it looks like we have some teams that are really, what that tells me is there are teams that really are running away, not running away with things, but they're on a good trend. Like, they're just scoring points no matter who their opponent is or who they're playing. They're going to, get a lot of points. Any other observations that you've noticed across here as we wind down, Justin, across Clownheads, and anything else to?
Well, it seems like if you have CMC on your team, you're going to be probably make some money this year. Another observation I want to mention from the NFL this week was the having to do with the Kansas City game versus the Jets. Is the Jets figuring it out? I mean, only 3-point loss to Kansas City, but I want to throw out there too, how did they just completely shut down that offense? They started playing soft on the defense, where they just decided not to try to just blow the Jets out in that game, which it was kind of surprising me that they didn't when they only scored 3 points and second and third quarter.
I feel like they took Kelsey. Like, it looked like to me the scheme defense was to take Kelsey out of the game.
Mhm.
They kind of played that sort of defense where they said, okay, you're gonna have to beat us with somebody besides Kelsey. And I was actually kind of impressed with the way Pacheco kind of manned up. Like, I felt like, you know what, he's actually a guy that I'll quietly start to target and maybe redrafts or as things happen. Like, I was really impressed with him. As a matter of fact, that was kind of my takeaway from that particular game. Was Pacheco. I was really surprised with.
Mhm.
I felt like he really, handled things. So yeah, that was kind of my my takeaway on that. Yeah, it's funny that you say Christian McCaffrey in our Clownhead leagues. He scored 62 points, like ungodly numbers, right? But
Yeah.
I think I kind of talked myself into it by looking at these teams tonight. I really think that the secret maybe is as many tight ends as you can put in the flex is the way to win. I mean, I'm actually gonna possibly implement a little bit of that. Like, that seemed like, when I see guys like Jonnu Smith outperforming, that doesn't. I wonder if that's an outlier, because I'm thinking back to last year. If you had Kelsey, you were gonna win. And so, if you get some of those other guys, like, we have a lot of 3 for 30 guys, and if you get them when they have their big week, they're in there. You don't really want them on your bench. Like, we did see somebody that had Johnny on the bench, but that didn't work out as well. But yeah, I mean, they didn't get the maximum amount of points, and I'm almost wondering if it isn't wise to, put him in. Now, against these guys, I'm not going to take any of these guys out, but I'm almost wondering if Jonnu Smith doesn't make more sense than Antonio Gibson. I mean, as much as that sounds crazy, like, because all Jonnu Smith needs to do is 3 targets or 3 catches. 3 for 30 is going to be 12 points.
Mhm.
For the chance of Antonio Gibson getting 12 is probably pretty low. The chance of
Very
Jonnu
low.
getting 3 catches is pretty high. Like, and so I guess I'm thinking, that's not, I'm not saying he's going to get what he did, but I almost think that the floor is so much higher, than maybe even the ceiling is for some of those running backs that are secondary guys, secondary piece guys, of an offense. Zeke Elliott types, right? They're so
Mhm.
dependent upon, them being things. So, and then even of receivers, like the 3rd and 4th receivers on the teams, like, I'm not sure that makes any sense to start those guys over. We saw Deontay Hardy starting this week, for instance. I think I'm starting, the secondary tight end for Minnesota, Oliver, over Hardy. Like, I think that's the lesson, because chance of him getting 2 catches is pretty high. Like, that's that's 8 points. He doesn't even need to score. If he scores, it's 14. That's pretty. It goes up pretty quick.
Yeah.
Deontay Hardy, geez, I don't know. You're going to struggle to get 8 points out of him. Like, I feel like a freaking win. So that's kind of my takeaway. But thank everybody. Thank you to everybody for watching. Another great week. Week 4 in the books. Week 5 ahead. 4 teams on bye. So really adjust your lineups. This is where, in my mind, this is kind of how we built the Clownheads dynasty teams for the bye weeks, right? You have to have depth. If you're going to win, if you're going to knock out a championship team or become a championship team, it's going to depend on how you do weeks 5 through weeks 12 or week 14, really. But, we're bye weeks now the rest of the way with week 12 being the outlier, I guess, and not being buys. But, I wonder how we do week 5 through 11, 13 and 14. They're going to really determine the playoff run. And I feel like even if you're 2-2 right now, you've got a chance to go. If you have depth, you've got a real chance to be, 10-4 and call that a playoff team or a top 2 team. So, you really just have to go on an 8-2 run here during the bye weeks. So depth will be king. And if you have quarterbacks to put in the quarterback and not take zeros, that'll be another big play. So, for this week, that's all I've got. But excited for week 5 and some of the changes that are happening with the depth charts. So, any parting thoughts, Justin, before we sign off?
Well, everyone, good luck this week. Come join us in the DraftKings.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
let's get more people in there outside of 13 or 14 people, and hopefully I'll try to take everyone down this week. So that's my goal this week.
Come get Justin's money, and we'll see everybody next week. For Justin, I'm Ed. Fantasy Football Clown Show. So long.